Hey, everybody, welcome to Self-Evident Podcast. You got your boy Mass Dog in the house and a very special guest who I consider is a hero to me, helps me keep my life going, and she's the most beautiful woman I know. Right to my right, Carrie Ann Campos, everyone. She is joining me for this podcast because this is a special series on what we can do to be the majority. What can one person do? And so this is a big message of ours. I think it's one of the messages I love to do the most when I travel and speak is what can one person do? And so we're doing a complete series on what you can do for your community, your city, your state, your country, all those things. And so we've got a very special guest today. But before we get into that, if you guys want to log on to theselfevidenttruth.com, theselfevidenttruth.com, you guys can find out tons more information on what we're doing and what you do. You can do to be a part of this.
Can we start over? Can we get a redo?
No, this is live. We can't do that.
Okay, yes. You can also go to 1776truth.store and has our highly fashionable merchandise.
This shirt right
this
here.
This is actually our most popular one.
It is
sold
very
out
popular.
At our last
it's
convention that we did.
Very popular. And it's funny because like a lot of what we do when we go out and speak is we hit a ton of different topics. Obviously, you guys know, if you've ever heard us, if you have not, please consider booking us. We'd love to go out to where you're at to go reach the masses. We love the gospel, and we're out to reach the masses and people who do not know Christ. The whole point of this is to turn them to Jesus and to make them understand and make them disciples of all nations. When that's done, how do we become society people? Right? Because we're kingdom builders, but then all of a sudden we got this world that we live in, and how do we become an influential person in the kingdom? So just to let you guys know, that's why the series is here, but we are excited, man. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we started this series because, I mean, how long have we been going? On 7 years now?
Yeah, 7 years.
And even before that, we worked with another organization, but the constant reoccurring thing that we would hear after an event, after Massey would speak was, okay, great, but what do I do? How do I affect change in my community? How do I'm
my
just
community.
A Joe Schmo. How am I going to? Thank you for the commentary. How do I affect change in Washington? I'm just like Joe Schmo. What do I do? And so that's why we started this series. Massey developed a new message here for 2021 called "You Are the Majority."
That's right.
And talking about how we as average citizens can get involved and affect change. So there you go. That's why we started this series.
Yeah. And so like I said, we're going to have different guests coming on. We got different ones already lined up. We're going to have some state representatives, former state representatives as well. But today. No. Like y'all got to know when I'm talking about this next person, you want to talk about, like, I know people get inspired by the messages we do because of the gospel and the Spirit of God and all that stuff. But when you meet people that inspire you, as I go out and do, I'm so excited that in her state, they're literally reaching not only just whites and all these other people, they're reaching Hispanics, they're reaching different classes of people and stuff like that. So it's like, and I'm not one of those guys, I'm just an American, I'm not a Mexican American. You guys know, if you guys have listened to us before, it's not about that. But what I'm saying is, when you're going across the aisle and going out and reaching people and doing it effectively, but also doing it articulately, it's an inspiration. Yeah. This woman has never stopped, her and her husband and her family. And these guys are just pushing through. So we're excited to announce who she is. This is Julie Mccarthy. She founded the Northeast Tarrant Tea Party in 2009 and quickly became the most influential, active, and recognized Tea Party in Texas. From replacing all the state House representatives in the area with conservatives to suing the IRS and winning, to hosting one-day events and raising $500,000 for conservative candidates, Julie and this group are loved and hated by many. True. We know that firsthand. Julie has a reputation for telling it like it is, with a no-holds-barred kind of movement. That's kind of how she operates. And so she's been bringing tons of activists a month for 10 years now. In 2019, the group rebranded to True Texas Project, reflecting an expanded vision and reach. In fact, Julie and her team, with their new name and new vision, are expanding the organization and the creation of satellite locations across the state of Texas. When not leading the group into the next decade, Julie spends her time homeschooling. This is crazy, right? Running a real estate investment business with her husband. I mean, so we all like, I don't have enough time.
Such a boring life.
Yeah, right. So everybody welcome Julie McCarthy. True Texas Project. Julie McCarthy, how are you, girl?
Hey, it is so great to be with you guys. You have so much energy. I just love hanging with you.
Hey, it never stops. I'm the same guy there as I'm here and all that stuff, right?
That's what makes you awesome.
Oh, thank you. And I mean every word I say. When I look at your posts, when I look at what you guys are doing, the activism y'all have created, first off, the name that you're creating and making for yourselves without the looting, without the rioting, without the, you know what I'm saying? We're doing it articulately here. And kind of, I think the best thing you did, and this isn't a cap on the Tea Party per se, but to move away from that, rebrand it and say, no, we're a group of conservatives who want to reach the nation and reach the state, right? Julie, I got a ton of questions for you, and I won't take up a lot of your time because I know you're busy. I mean, homeschooling, investments, whatever. It is what it is. But Julie, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself more than what I just said here?
Well, that's a lot that you just shared, but mostly, I heard what you were saying in your introduction about what can I do? What can I do? And I think that the biggest thing I want people to know about me is that I am nobody. Like, I had no political experience. I had no experience running an organization or anything like that. And here I am now running the biggest group in Texas. So it's just somebody that will step up and say, hey, I have time and I'm passionate about my country and my state, and I'll do this. And so that's me in a nutshell. I mean, like, if you have no passion, what are you doing with your life?
Ooh, come on. That's exactly it. If you haven't found a reason to die, you haven't found a reason to live. That's really the thing here. So guys, be sure you share this video. Be sure you give it a thumbs up, get it out to your friends. Julie, I got, like I said, a ton of questions. I don't know if Carrie's got any off the bat, but I'm going to ask you why. The first question is why. And there's a reason I'm asking you that question, because most people think you're like on the outside. For us, I know when we started Self-Evident, people thought we were crazy. Christians were like condemning us for starting Self-Evident because we were just two of us. We have 3 kids, no income. We had nothing when we started. And I just knew this is what we were supposed to do. And you know what? I'm a Hispanic kid. Like I grew up, I'm ethnically Hispanic. My parents came from Mexico, and I thought I was never taught any of this stuff. You know what I mean? Nobody ever taught me about politics or the government or the law, constitution, nothing. So I thought, why can't I go reach kids with this message? And so why did you start this whole thing? What was it about Texas or whatever was going on?
I just had a strong sense of right and wrong, of justice and injustice. And like I said, I didn't know a lot about politics, but when Santelli gave his little rant on the floor of the Wall Street, where they trade, it resonated with me. It resonated with Americans across the country that somebody has to do something. And it's going to have to be me. I mean, I had a daughter that was 1 at the time, and what am I supposed to leave to her? Like, what world is she going to live in? And honestly, I could walk away from this in a heartbeat if it wasn't for my daughter. I would be like, you know what? You guys screwed up the country. You live with the consequences. I'm out. But I have a daughter. And, I say that I could walk away, but I will also say that I know I'm called to this. I know God has gifted me. I know He's blessed. Every step we've taken, He's blessed. And when He says back out, I'll back out. But honestly, it's my daughter that keeps me going.
So it's that whole Thomas Paine quote. He said, if there's trouble, let it be in my day so that my child may.
Yes. Yes.
It's this idea. And then he said after that, don't let them be ashamed of us, basically. Don't let our kids be ashamed of what we didn't do. One of the things that a lot of people ask, and I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people say, well, I didn't do it. Neither did I. Neither did you. Right. But who's going to fix it if we don't?
Yeah, it's on our watch. It's on our watch.
There you go. And I think a lot of the times with most conservatives, and I'm just going to go with the conservative thing because, gosh, Republicans and Democrats both bother me. There's just a lot of hypocrisy on both sides. I would dare say more on the Republican side because they say they stand. And there's one gentleman I started following from the State House from your guys' oh my gosh. He is kind of white hair, short. He seems shorter. I don't know his name, but I'll pull it up here in a minute.
Okay.
But one of the things that they always tell me, well, I didn't start it. And it's like, I get that. I understand that. But it is on my watch, and I'm supposed to occupy till he comes. And I'm like, what else am I going to leave for these kids? Which brings me to the next question. Because a lot of people ask me, how? How do I do this? Facebook's a powerful tool. Instagram's a powerful tool. Twitter, all that stuff. How did you do this?
I think, yes, Facebook is powerful. Social media, all that stuff is powerful, but it's all meaningless because we were made to have community. And what we have found through True Texas Project and previously Northeast Tarrant Tea Party is that the reason people will gather is because they want to know that other people think like them, that they're not alone. And so we will gather people just for a softball game or just like we're going on a float trip next month. And we talk about politics and we all share that in common and we all want to save our state or our nation or whatever. But you want to talk about how you start relating to people. and you get off of social media and you build a community. And it's not all on one person. It's not like I built True Tech. I built True Texas Project. Let me tell you, I have not slept in 10 years, but it's not just me. It's a whole team. And so we have people that step up and say, hey, I can do this or I can do that. And they might seem like tiny things, but they're not tiny things. We have one guy that's been telling me for 10 years, 12 years, he's been doing our banking for us. And he's like, I really should step down. I'm not doing enough. You should get somebody in here that just has more time to give. And I'm like, I don't need somebody that has more time to give. I need somebody that I can trust that's doing our banking faithfully day in and day out. And that takes it off my plate.
Can I just speak to something? Because you said something in there. You said, I haven't slept in 10 years. Okay. I just want to speak to that and have you kind of speak to that because we've been going for 6-7 years. And okay, so we drove through the night from Ohio last week so Massey could be home for church on Sunday morning. Or was it Missouri? Who knows? I can't remember. People look at us and say, you guys are crazy. You can't do that. That's not like, you have a life to live. You have kids. But nobody says anything about the Olympian that spends their entire life giving to be an Olympic athlete, or the Navy SEAL. Nobody says anything when they give their entire life to become a Navy SEAL. And so I just want to have you speak to that about sacrifice for our nation to see, because the reality is we've never received any of our freedoms, any of our rights, God-given rights, because somebody chose that was the hill that they were going to die on. And that was the hill that they were going to sacrifice for. So I just want you to speak to that. Do you hear that, number one? And can you speak to the sacrifice of it all?
I could preach that every day, all day, because for one thing, I am not the kind of person that doesn't want my life to count. So before I ever met my husband, I was praying, I want something that we do together that only the two of us can do together that will make a difference in this world. And here we are leading this group. But there's a sign I have in my office that I'll read to you. It says, life was not meant to be a journey to the grave in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadsided, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride. So if I don't sleep, I don't care if I have bags under my eyes. I don't care if I get more wrinkles.
Right now.
I didn't hear what you said, but I mean, that is my motto. That is, I will sleep when I am dead. And for now, we've got a job to do, and God's given us marching orders, and we're going to do it.
Amen.
I said I felt like shooting some guns off in the air.
Oh, yeah. We had fireworks at our big celebration last week. So.
By the way, you guys put on a big old celebration out there just recently, didn't you? You had some really cool speakers and stuff like that. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right. We were celebrating Texas independence when Texas won the final battle that gave us our independence from Mexico. We had fireworks. We had James O'Keefe from Project Veritas speak. So we had 500 people come out. It was a huge party. It was so much fun.
Go ahead.
Can you tell us, okay, so I know that Massey said that you started out as a Northeast Tarrant Tea Party and then rebranded in 2019 to True Texas Project, and it was one group. Can you tell us where you guys are at now? Because I know that you have in 2020, I believe, or 2021 have just God has expanded literally the borders.
And I love that you say that God did it, because honestly, none of this is anything that I could ever have dreamed of. But, in 2019, it was our 10-year anniversary. And we knew that the Tea Party name, the media was very successful in tarnishing that name. We're all just good Christian patriotic people, but the media made us look like we're so far fringe, right? And we're not. But so we wanted to get that out of our name. And then our name also included Northeast Tarrant County, whereas, we were really all over the state already. We were always in the papers in Dallas and Fort Worth and Houston and San Antonio and Austin. So it didn't make sense to just call us Northeast Tarrant. So we changed our name to True Texas Project. And as soon as we did that, people came out of the woodwork. They're like, does that mean you're going to open in Dallas County? Does that mean you're going to open in Harris County? All these places. And so we're like, well, I guess we can try it. And so we did. And now we've been opening one a month. We now have 8 satellite locations. And by the end of the year, we'll have 15.
Wow.
Nice.
Come on.
Do you remember, I think it was a couple of years ago, I came over to speak and I prayed.
2020.
Yeah, I think I prayed from the stage and I prayed over you, I think it was. And I was like, man, I see this thing going all over the country. And I'm telling you, we're going to have a true Florida project. I know it. I know it's
what? I see that coming. I didn't remember that you prayed that, but maybe you need to back off on those prayers just a bit so we can breathe a little bit.
No.
But I get contacted every single day from Missouri, Kansas, Vermont, Illinois, Alabama. They're all contacting us. And they don't even want to take Texas out of the name. They want to be True Texas Project Alabama, True Texas Project Florida. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I just know what it was I remember because I still have the post. I saved it because I cried when you posted it because I'm a sissy like that sometimes. But it was that you never had somebody pray for you on the stage. And I was like, I remember that when I did that, I just said, I just see this thing going all over the country. I see it in Florida. I see it. And I know that, and the reason is because like nobody has to reinvent the wheel. You've already invented it and you already have it going. Jeepers, all we got to do is just get some people ready to fire up and let's move this thing. You know what I mean? So there's no having to reinvent. I think you guys really have the right heart. Obviously, I don't think it, I know it. You have the right heart in doing what you're doing. Now you guys are going to, I grew up in McAllen, near the McAllen area. And now you guys have one there, right? Like that's what's going on now?
Yeah, May 17th, we launch in the RGV sector, the Rio Grande Valley. And I got to tell you, when we launch in different locations, we'll go in and we'll have a meeting with people that are kind of interested in helping us launch, being on leadership, whatever. And we'll meet with 2 or 3 people and then hope that people come along. When we went down to Hidalgo County, we had 25 people show up just to be on leadership. And they're so excited. So we're really pumped about getting down there. So, in fact, we'll probably invite you to come speak.
Why not?
Boom. Okay, so speaking of that, okay, so we have, there's a group in Ohio called Patriot America, and they just started here in February. And she was, the lady who started it, Candace Keller, is responsible for the heartbeat bill getting passed through Ohio. Mm-hmm. And so she started, she's like, I just got fed up with like the general Tea Party movement where it's just focused on, kind of boxed in. And she's like, and I wanted to get people involved locally and teach them how to run for office, city council, school board. And she's like, and I just wanted to educate people on their rights, their state rights, their constitutional rights, all the things. And she said, so I started a group called Patriot America. I had my 84-year-old grandmother in February putting together little Constitution bags in her living room. And I'm like, I'll just put 50 together. And the first meeting, she had over 300 people show up. The second meeting was like 600. And the third meeting was over 1,000 people.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. In Ohio?
In Ohio. And like, I have never seen anything like this. And we have a friend here that she's working with closely, Ricky Pepin, who's traveling with her. And they're doing the same thing where they're opening up all these other chapters because people are just contacting them.
Wow.
I said to Ricky, I feel bad because I'm dragging, Ricky's like in her 70s. And she's like, I feel bad because I'm dragging Ricky all over Ohio for all these meetings that people are asking us. And Ricky said, I have been waiting my entire life for this movement. It's glad to open people's eyes. And I've never seen anything like it. And I'm wondering if you're seeing that too, where it's like literally, because in 2008, when the Tea Party movement started, people got awake. But then what we experienced in 2016, like Trump got elected and we're like, yeah, we'll just go back to sleep. But now I just feel like there's a momentum that I have never seen before. And we've been doing this, for 6 years, but we've been involved since the early 2000s in a group like this.
Yep.
Are you seeing?
Yeah. Absolutely. I've seen completely the same thing, that it was exciting in 2009. Like I was in DC and there were 2 million people marching, on the Capitol. And it was powerful to have all those numbers and it was invigorating. But yeah, they kind of, as soon as you get a Republican elected, they think I can go back to sleep. And I'm just like you guys, like you said in your intro, man, we are harder on those Republicans than we are the Democrats because we have no expectations out of the Democrats. But out of the Republicans, you better get off your butt and do what you promised to do. Exactly. So, yeah, you can't go to sleep when the Republicans are elected. So now we're back into a Democrat, administration and people are waking up. But I think it goes beyond that really, because I think we're past the time when people can be lulled back to sleep. I think everybody at this point, even those that used to say, I'm not political, that's your thing, Julie, they can't say that anymore. Everybody's being forced to pick sides.
All the pastors now too. I think the more we continue to go out, like we were just at I do these homeschool conferences. There's like 7 of them a year. I'm doing one. Actually, that's when we're coming up in July to go speak where you're at. And I have never seen the hunger. As a matter of fact, and this is just encouragement stuff for the people out there, because I want you guys to come and ask your questions because Julie's here. And dude, Julie, I'm serious. I'm just like so lit. I'm like literally tearing here. Like I can't, I just so happy because I don't ever see defeat, man. I only see victory. I think COVID really showed us local governments. It wasn't bad what happened. I think it just showed us, oh, shoot, we got to get involved there. Hey, we got to do this. So it's just like the Lord's totally turning the tide for what evil is. He's turning it for good. So I love it. We were in South Carolina here just recently. It was Missouri, I think it was. A deaf woman. They were forcing her to wear a mask. She said, no, I read lips, so I can't do it. So she ended up threatening the place to sue them if there was no law, because there was no law, right? So she ended up winning, and whatever. She's actually running for school board as a homeschool mother, a deaf woman running for school board, because she said, I have kids, but there's a lot of parents who don't have ability to teach their kids.
Yeah.
I've never seen this before. I have never seen the hunger like this. I've never seen, and pastors now coming up to the table saying, I can't shut up now. You had stories like that. So we're seeing it all over the place. Is that what's going on? Because I'm obviously you're seeing it, but like, I think more pastors are coming on to the hunt here. If I'm speaking right.
No, I absolutely agree, because now that we have locations all over the state, really, we're always looking for venues. And historically, we have said we will not meet in a church, because inevitably somebody from that church will come to the pastor and say, oh, we don't want those right-wing fanatics meeting in our church, and the church will kick us out. So we're left stranded trying to find somewhere else to go. Well, now the pastors are coming to us. You can meet here. You can meet here for free. Wow. And I'm just like, wow, praise God, right? But, I got to tell you, every time they kick us, like, I totally am on board with you with the whole, there is nothing but hope right now. There's nothing but hope. Anybody who is discouraged should hear the message of hope, because every time they kick us, it is a blessing in disguise. Like Washington Post just did a hit piece on us, and now they're coming out of the woodwork saying, wait, I agree with everything they wrote about you in Washington Post. Yeah. And like the cancel culture tried to cancel us from 3 different venues on Tuesday. We had, at the 11th hour, we had to find a 4th venue for our meeting on Tuesday night. And then people are coming from all over the Metroplex, which is a 4-county radius, saying, I'm just showing up because they tried to cancel you and you said no, you wouldn't let them win. So at the big party we had on Saturday night, 500 people in that room. I'm just looking out and I'm like, wow, we started with 22 people and we have 500 people now. And they're people, I didn't even know who they were. Yeah. So it's like a multiplier effect, right? Like, I know the 500 people that usually show up, but these are 500 new people and they all have friends, but they're all coming to me saying, wow, there's people just like me. And now I have hope. And that word just keeps coming back. I have hope now. I have hope. You give me hope. And that's why I'm saying you have got to meet in person. So you can be on Facebook, and that's not the same as being in person. So I don't know if we're replacing the church or coming alongside the church, but there's nothing like community.
Amen.
No, I think it's just a different form of the church. And to be honest with you, because like if you look at the John Peter Gabriel Muhlenbergs and all the old pastors that got involved in the revolution, I mean, they weren't replacing church services. They were just doing what they were called to. And they brought church to. That's what that whole saying, give them Watts boys. That whole saying, they were taking musket wadding from hymnals, the Watts hymnals, and putting them in the barrels. And that's what they'd say, give them Watts boys. They literally brought church to the field. Washington would be like praying with the troops and like talking about how their conduct. Dude, he was literally talking to them about conduct and how to be conducting yourself as a professional and cussing and all these things. I mean, they were strict, regimented people, right? So the church was going to the war. And so it's like Hebrews 11. I love talking about the scripture. Hebrews 11 talks about, through faith, they subdued nations, conquered kingdoms, all these things, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the fire darts of the enemy. And then I said, made strong through the war, made mighty in the battle. Yeah. Wow. So that's what it says. They were made strong in the war. They weren't strong before it. That's not that. Gideon. So the hope is get in the war, and that's where you find the hope. It's like, Lord, you called me to the war. This war was not brought on by me, but you know what? I'm not rebellious. They are. So give me the strength to go fight them, because now I'm here. So that's the hope, is that he can take a short little chubby Mexican kid with crooked teeth and do something. He could take someone like you you said you're nothing. You're nobody.
Right.
And do this. You know what I mean? So it's like the point is, what can we do? You can do anything. To save America. You can do anything to save a nation. If he thought we were done, he'd have pulled us out by now, but we're not. Right. We're all breathing right now.
Right. And that's the thing that I don't think Christians understand, is that the more they persecuted the children of Israel, the more they multiplied. Ooh, so this is a hopeful season. The very fact that they attack you proves that they know that you're winning, winning today, because you have the power of God. Why would they spend so much time in the media attacking the Christian, attacking the conservative? Because they know you have the power. You have the power of the Constitution, and you have the power of the Holy Ghost. There's no other way around it.
God, we have the power of the people too, honestly. There are more people that agree with us than you would realize. But don't you consider it, as you say all this, don't you just think, like, wow, what a privilege to be alive now. Bingo. Like, I would not have wanted to be like the child of the greatest generation, right? Because they had it easy. They just skated through their life. No challenge, no call, no passion, like I love being alive right now. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Amen.
I think too, this actually goes to what we've been talking about for a while. I think I'm doing this message when I go there is the majority one.
You are the majority.
You are the majority. And this is just a piece of it. It's so awesome that you just said that, Julie, because my kids get to experience firsthand the move of the Spirit of God. We want our kids to know it. What a time to be alive and show them the living God. Who's going to take away that testimony from them when they see it with their own eyes?
Yeah.
When they see God move the way the children of Israel did, so that they always have that in remembrance, that God did this, God did that. Are you crazy? Man, mom and dad couldn't do this, but God showed up and did that. Who's going to take that away from them? You want your kids to know God, this is the time to teach them. This is the time to get into a fight. You know what I mean? That's that Vernon Johns quote. You see a good fight, get in it, man. Mm-hmm. This is it now. This is perfect for us. I mean, I don't know if we could be this is so crazy. He uses the weak things of the world to confound the mighty. Mm-hmm. And we've been so dummied down as a nation and weakified, if you will, that this is a perfect opportunity for him to move. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah.
You're right. So, I'm also seeing the, people like to give the millennials a hard time, and I'm right there with them because I'm shocked at their lifestyle and their choices and that sort of thing. But when I look at the kids that are coming into college now, or the kids that are in high school right now, especially the ones that are being homeschooled, and their patriotism and their grasp of the Constitution and what's right and wrong, there's that hope word, because I see them coming up and I see them doing great things.
Can I ask you actually about that? That's one of the questions I kind of wanted to end with. So I remember watching, I want to say it was a YouTube video that you had shared of your daughter speaking at some of it was funny, and she's a brilliant speaker. But she
thanks
about like how you raised her and things that she's done, since you guys got involved in this movement. And a lot of times we hear, even at our local church, Massey's an assistant pastor, and Massey, we've spoken the message there, 100 times, and lots of them watch our podcast here. But we always hear, like, how do I teach what do I do? My kids we don't have the option to homeschool. So how do I teach them the Constitution? How do I get them intrigued like your daughter? I know your daughter, you always say she's an old soul, which
yes.
is amazing. But I wanted you to speak to that, like to parents, like what would you advise parents to do to get their kids on board with, what you guys are teaching?
It's not rocket science. They have to be right next to you. So when we go to a rally, she's with us. When we are doing a sign wave on the street, or when we're campaigning at the polls, or when we're going door to door, when we're listening to speakers, when we are protesting at the Capitol, when we're speaking with our legislators in Austin, she is right next to me. She hears every word. She'll hear this podcast. You guys come to speak, and especially when it's people like you that can really speak to a generation that needs maybe a little bit more energy, right? Because you speak with such passion that they can't help but want to listen, right? That's fantastic. Get them in there and they'll get it. They'll understand it, and they'll be caught because we speak truth. So it's not going to fall on deaf ears. It's going to resonate with them because they'll know it's truth. They'll know it in their heart, and then they'll carry it with them.
Amen.
Wow.
But I would also want to say, get your kid out of school. I have heard every excuse in the book, and I don't. 99% of them are just excuses. So get your kid out of school.
I just want to encourage you. So Lisa Keller is from Michigan.
Okay.
I spoke up there. She said maybe a true Michigan project. This woman and her husband, he was actually running for Senate, I think it was, and had a heart attack. So he'd been trying to run and run and run. So our friend Shane Hernandez up there ran and won. But these guys are doers, man, and they're encouraged right now. Another one, Angela Anderton's her name. She said, I'm loving all of this. So much encouragement. We're not only fighting for our country, but we are a beacon to the rest of the world. This is the kind of stuff that you're doing, Julie, that your work is not just inspiring us here. You're inspiring the nation with this stuff. And I'm just so gosh darn proud of, not that my proud of you matters, but just like so awesome. Just honored to even talk to you. And you may think that's weird, but to me, it's like, I honor those who do and I'm just so honored that I could even do this with you. And so can you tell me how we can get a hold of you guys? What is it that we can do to kind of help support, stuff like that? Cause I know you're getting a lot of calls, but that's okay because you'll probably get more. And so get ready, brace yourselves.
We'll take it. We'll take any support we can get. So we have a website, truetexasproject.com. Always looking for people to pray for us because we are, barraged by the negative press and all the naysayers. But honestly, if you we always say we are building the army, and we don't know what's coming. We don't know what we need an army for, like in what terms. It could be battle. It could be actually physical battle. It could just be fighting the legislation. It could be fighting City Hall. I don't know. Whatever form that word takes on, we are building the army so that we are prepared for whatever comes. And so we're doing that in Texas. And I know there are lots of states that are coming to us and saying, do it in our state, do it in our state. No, you do it in your state. And then when it comes time for us all to join up, when the time is right and we have the bandwidth and the national leadership and that sort of thing, you'll be ready. So I don't care if it's 5 people in your living room watching your podcast, right? They can talk, they can start building that community, they can start studying the Constitution or whatever they want to talk about. There's so many options online. Just get together in person, build those relationships, build that community, and then we'll all join up when the time's right.
Oh, amen. Wow.
Oh,
boom. Dang.
Drop the mic.
Julie, we're going to have you on again, but we're probably going to be more topical next time you come on because you pretty much killed this one. But so honored to have you on, Julie. Thank you again. We'll see you very soon in July, I think it is.
Yep.
Yeah, July. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm excited too, man. I'm so excited to see you guys. So thank you again, Julie. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So in essence, what we've been doing with this series was on community. So we're going to be doing this series on how to affect your community, how to affect your state, how to affect your nation, your city, your county, how to get involved. And this is just one example. She started, you know what I mean? Like, now I don't want to say with nothing, but like almost with nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, what do we do, right?
People, yeah.
Yeah. And now they're 8-9 chapters in, they're going to have 15 by the end of the year. That's something you can do.
Right.
Anybody can do it.
Right. I think that's a thing. I just had to take my earmuffs off. So just so you know, but I think that's the thing is people
do that too. People
just, like, what do we do? What do we do? It's like something. Anybody can do something. Just step out and do it. And I think that's, Massey said we had a number of people come up at the conventions recently. And one particular gentleman, he said, I have 4 daughters. And he's like crying at my table or at our table. I'm there. Massey's speaking at another session. And he says to me, I have 4 young daughters and I've always used that as an excuse. Like, that's my ministry. I'm just supposed to focus on them and raise them right. And he's like, and now I'm realizing that I've always just used that as an excuse not to step out beyond my comfort zone. Ooh. And he's like, so now I feel like, Lord, just tell me what to do and I will do it. And he was so broken in a powerful way. And I really believe God's going to use him, somewhere in his community there. But that's the thing, is that people don't understand that sometimes it is just stepping out and doing something, I
think it is that. It's just doing one thing. I remember, so we're starting off with this. We're going to talk about self-evident. We tried to do this 2 weeks ago, but the weather really got us and we couldn't do it. So if you guys have any questions, please send them down below. We'd love to help. Angela, thank you so much for tuning in. Lisa, thank you so much for tuning in. This is awesome. So guys, let's just talk about self-evident for a minute. Why we started this. Listen, I was in another ministry called Institute on the Constitution. I was one of their main instructors. I would go out and travel and speak and do all that stuff with Jake McCauley, who's my bro, man. He's my best friend, I got saved 20 years ago because of his preaching. So he's just a dear friend. And so I was with him. And then what happened was Carrie came into my office probably August time of 2015. Can you explain that? Do you remember any of that?
Yeah, I just had been like praying. Was it 2015? Yeah,
it was
2015. So I just been praying, and I just felt in that August of that year, that day that I was praying, that God was going to call us out kind of on our own.
Yeah.
And that I felt like we love ILTC, but it was just we have a different delivery, and I think everyone has their own niche in the Lord and their own anointing in the Lord. And I just felt like God was calling us out and calling Massey specifically, that I said, I feel like God's going to use your gifting, your music, your preaching, your ministering in a different realm, the same message, the same heart for America and for people to see our God-given rights under the Constitution, but just in a different format and a different way. So.
Yeah. And so I remember I was sitting there working and I was like lost. I was doing,
okay.
I was like, okay. And then I just kept working because I had tours to set up and everything. Yeah. I remember in December time, we were in this clutch and gas thing. Like, we're going to clutch and gas this. We're not going to go fast right away. We're not going to, we're going to ease out of IOTC and go into self-evident. We're going to ease into it's going to be a great transition. God is so amazing. And then wham, she lost her job. Not bad. It was just that they moved a different direction where she was doing with another ministry. And and then in December, I remember Jake called me. He's like, man, we ain't got no more money. We can't pay you no more. And I'm like, okay. So it wasn't that I did anything bad. We just ran out of cash, right? And we had 2 weeks till January. And that was my income. I remember that was it. We were like, well, we got a couple tours. I think we had one in January, one in February, I think it was. And we were like, we can't not do them.
Yeah.
So we did. Like we literally
went on a self-evident. Yeah.
Yeah, we started self-evident at that time. Like we just said, this is what we're gonna do. We incorporated, I think it was. We went to the state, said, hey, here we are. You know, we're doing business as and
So 3 weeks before the end, so it was like December, the first week of December is when we decided to start self-evident in January. And so that's kind of how that went. I just wanted to So, I mean, it was kind of a crazy, our clutch and gas. We were going to, Massey was going to go out for IOTC a little more. I was going to start behind the scenes working on building self-evident, and that got dashed to pieces in a day or so.
Yes. And so I remember it was January. We were ready to go out. And we had nothing. We were flat broke. We didn't have any money coming in. I'm like, Lord, I got to get out to Ohio and do these tours and these speaking events. Nobody's guaranteeing us any money. I don't know what to do. I don't know how we're going to do it. All these things. I remember we had negative dollar something, $1.84. I think it was in the account, $1.82. And we were both frustrated. And I remember I was out in the backyard mowing the lawn. We just paid rent. I think it was. We were like, we got no money for groceries. I don't have any gas money. Mm-hmm. And so I'm out there mowing the lawn. And at this time, I'm really mad at the Lord. And I'm like, Lord, you called me to this. Why is this happening? And then she runs out with this envelope and she's doing this and she's crying. And it was a $500 check. And it was from a friend of mine in Massachusetts. I'd preached there in October of 2015. And he said, I want to support you. I want to support your ministry. And I was already with IOTC. I thought he meant them, but he actually meant us and what we're doing.
He had no idea that we had talked about starting our own thing.
So he actually wrote in the comment of he wrote us a note and he said, you're not going to be able to retire on this, but I'm going to do this every month faithfully as best I can to help you in your ministry. So we cashed that check. We bought $300 in groceries. I think I had $200 in gas and we went out and did our first tour. And I'm going to tell you something. That first tour garnered, it was like life to me. Mm-hmm. I get to be me. I get to go out and minister. Because when we go out and minister and preach this stuff, we do full on prayer. We do full on asking God to move in their salvations, Holy Spirit endowment, healings, all that stuff. We're really big on that stuff. And we want to minister to people. We want to set them free from bondage. That's the whole thing. But then disciple them into the things of God. Disciple them into how to get involved in their community, how to get involved in their state, whatever they got to do. And so we were doing that. And so I think it was April. Was it April or May when we lost all those events and we did those three?
May.
It was in May. So we didn't have that much going on.
Go ahead. Can I stop here for a second? Because I think sometimes that, how do I say this? When you feel called to step out in something, whether it starts some big ministry or just reach out to somebody or do something that the Lord's called us to do. Oftentimes we get caught up in the concept of this has to be perfect before I'll step out. Everything has to line up. My sign will be, everything will line up perfectly and then I'll step out. And often God does it the backwards way where you step out and he meets you there because he's faithful to do it. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in holding ourselves back and not stepping out no matter what it is because we get this, it has to be perfect. It has to line up and God's just calling you to step out. And he is who he says he is. And so when we're stepping out and people were like, this is what we were saying before when we were talking to Julie about how people said to us, this is crazy. You guys are crazy. You can't do ministry like this. You can't just step out and live by faith. You have a family. You have 3 kids. You have a house. You don't think God knows we had 3 boys? You don't think God knows we needed groceries and we needed to pay hello?
That didn't catch him off guard.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like, oh no, that family down there. You know what I mean? I just think sometimes that it doesn't have to be perfect. And that is the actual perfect scenario for God to move.
100%.
You know?
No, I think so. So in saying that, I remember when we were talking to people, we told them our idea. Several people we trust. We're like, hey, this is what we're doing. I remember it was the owner of two Chick-fil-A's.
No, he was one of them. There was more.
There was more, but like just this one specific instance. He owned two of them. He's from Texas, the Houston area. Good friend. I mean, it was awesome. Christian guy. I mean, dude overcame cancer, was healed of cancer, crazy stuff. So we told him this, and he was like, "Are you nuts?"
Mm-hmm. I've seen people get divorced over this.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. You don't have any money now. It's going to be tough for you to do it when you're doing it by yourself." And blah blah blah. I was like, "Bro, I just don't. We have to do this." Mm-hmm. And I remember he said something to me that, you know, if you guys ever if you know Tom Brady, he's got a chip on his shoulder for being the 7th round draft pick, 199th. I had this chip on my shoulder.
Has a man crush on Tom Brady, just so you know.
I do.
Just so everybody knows.
And if you hate me, that's on you. So, Tom Brady, the man. So, so I have the same chip on my shoulder. I had it for a long time. He said something to me that just really hit me funny. He said, "Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong then." And I remember saying this to him. I was just sitting there crying. I was like, dude, I don't want to prove you wrong. I just want to prove God right.
Yeah.
If he told me this, I'm going to go do it and watch him move.
Right.
I remember, so we were going through the first few months of this. We're barely scraping by. God miraculously was providing for our rent and all these other things. I was doing side jobs. I was doing, on top of traveling all over the country, we were doing side work. And then I was doing asphalting at night, late at night. So I'd be going at like 10 at night till like 6 in the morning doing asphalt work. That's how I was making money to go out and do the ministry stuff. So we just kept doing it. And of course, people were like, bro, ministry doesn't require this kind of sacrifice. Ministry doesn't do this. And that was when Carrie brought up her point. Why is it when business owners sacrifice their whole life for their business, then they become
honorable?
It is. Like, there's like this badge of honor when you sacrifice everything for a business. When it comes to the things of God.
When you sacrifice for the kingdom, oh, you must be in legalism.
Exactly. Like there's no way God would tell you to do it this way, man. There's no way that you know what I mean? So like it went through that. I remember, so we were struggling, but we were getting through, and it was like hand to mouth. And if you guys know me at all, I hated that for a long time. I used to really be angry about it, but I'd be like, Lord, I'm trusting. I remember May came by, and we had like 6 events to do in Michigan. It was like 6 of them, I think it was 6 or 7. And I remember none of them guaranteed us any cash. We're like, we're just going to go up there by faith. We're going to come preach. And I did the whole William Wallace thing, you know, as soon as I'm hitting the road, I literally did this. I rolled down the window and I'm like, freedom! Like I'm going into war. And I remember like 10 hours in, I'm calling my wife. I'm like, what am I doing? This is stupid. What am I doing? Nobody's going to give us any money. This is crazy. Like, and then she told me, I have bad news. 3 events canceled. So we're going up there. I think we did.
We remember different details. No. I think it was like 1 event. But it might have seemed like 3.
No, it was 3. It was 3. I remember because I was supposed to do 2 on the Detroit side. They canceled. I remember it differently than you. But so anyway, I remember those events. It wasn't
the ideal situation.
It was not. So I go to the first event. I remember I slept in a truck stop parking lot. Got an $11 shower because God is good. Hey, those truck stop showers are clean. So. And then I got an hour and a half of sleep. I went and did the event, and I remember I made $100. And I'm like, I'm a failure. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how am I going to provide for the kids. I don't know. But because those events canceled, I had like a 3-day layover. Like I didn't need to do it. I have some dear friends in the other side of Michigan. So I was in the Detroit side. I had to go over to Holland. That's where they were. So it's about a 3-hour drive.
He's
so
liking this post right now.
Yeah. And so this is Andrew. Yeah. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to go see my buddy Bob. And his son Andrew and I are like brothers. I mean, I love that guy so much. He's actually on our board, and he's just a dear friend, dear supporter. I just love his family and everything they represent. I remember when Bob was still. I remember I went over there, and Bob would always do this when I would come into town. He keep in mind they're successful people, but he would take at least half the day to just talk to me. Just hey, come into the office. And he would take me out to lunch or whatever. He would sit me in his office and we just have hours of talking. Like, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing here? What are you doing here? And all this other stuff. And he would ask me these crazy questions of like, how did you start this? And why didn't you tell me you started this? And all these other things. And I remember, dude, we had like $100. I'm like, Lord, I got things to do. And he kept telling me, how much do you need every month to run? And that was when the waterworks started. I started crying. I'm like, I didn't come here for your money, Bob. I wanted to see Andrew. He's like, I know, but tell me how much you need to run on every month. I told him the figure, and he goes, I just cut a check upstairs. I'll write it out to you guys for your month. And he said, you're going to change the world, kid. And he always told me that. He said, you're going to change the world, kid. You and your family are going to change the world. And I never, ever forgot that. And that check was like, I remember I called the board.
Yeah.
I was like, guys, look at this, we're rich. You know, and it wasn't a lot because we only needed that much for the month and all that other stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the Lord. It's going to happen like this every time. And it didn't, right? But I just remember doing those events and doing them with joy and like, Lord, you're going to come through for us. You're going to keep coming through for us. Mm-hmm. And then we did Ohio so many times that year that I remember Dave Green emailed us or texted us or Facebook messaged us. And he said, I believe Go ahead. He
said to Massey, it was like in November of 2016 after Trump was elected, he said, I truly believe that you helped swing the vote for conservative constitutional. I mean, at the time that was Trump, for 2016 for going out and ministering so many times in Ohio. Like that's the Lord just kept opening doors there.
Gosh, dude,
we were there like 6 or 7 times. It was crazy.
It was insane. It wasn't just 6 or 7 times. It was 6 or 7 times for like a week and a half.
Yeah.
So we were doing events consistently, doing schools. I was going with Ricky Pepin and all these guys from IOTC, the Institute of the Constitution, and they would be helping me get into schools, and I'd be talking to the kids, and so. I remember the first year was so difficult. The second year was even worse because it was like after the election, events were down.
Yeah, everyone's. That's a funny thing that after the 2016 when Trump got elected, all these like Patriot Tea Party groups, they just like fizzled out to nothing. And it's like that you don't understand the price of freedom. You don't understand that continual what is the word? Vigilance?
Yeah, vigilance.
Yes, thank you. That's how we keep freedom, is that you continually go. And I don't know how many groups that we spoke at in 2016 that just fizzled out to nothing in the last 4 years. And it's like, well, I mean, I don't mean to point the finger, but that's kind of how we got here in 2021. I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Bitter.
No, you ain't bitter. Not at all.
Not at all.
So I remember doing the second year was very difficult. We couldn't get any events, but we ended up doing more.
We did, but
but we did more colleges and schools. I think we didn't do much of that Patriot side of things, right? Yeah. So all of a sudden, 2017 comes around, right? 2017 is that year that we said, you know what, we're going to give up everything. We're going to get rid of our rental property. We're going to put everything in storage, and we're going to travel the country in an RV for the summer. Because in Florida, you can live like a hobo.
Let me just say this. It was like January of 2017. And Massey's like, I think maybe we should I think it would be cool to go on the road, like put everything, sell everything, go on the road. I think God put this on my heart. I'm like, the heck he did. It's like, let's live in a camper. Let's go travel the summer and live in a camper for a year.
Because down
it took about 6 months for me to be like, okay, that sounds like a good plan.
And God totally provided. So check this out. In Florida, they don't care if you live like a hobo. You can live in your RV. They have plots here. That's what they do. So I remember that guy who gave us the 500 at the beginning of the story refurbished an RV, like a used one.
Yeah, so we were up there and I just have to tell the details.
Because I don't even know why I'm talking.
This is every husband and wife are like, they do it too. Okay, so we were up there in December in Massachusetts in December of 2016. And we were just asking him questions like, okay, like what would be good for our family to go travel and minister and speak? Like, this is where we would live, with our 3 boys. And I'm like, do we get a Class C? Like, what would be good? Just like, tell us all you know about RVing. And he's like, oh, I have a camper, like, that's, I don't even remember what year it was. It was older, but he had refurbished a lot of it. And he's like, I have a camper on the lot because he owns Major's RV. Shameless plug. In Barnstable?
Yep.
No. Where is it at? I don't know. Massachusetts. And we're like, oh, okay. Like, great. How much would that be? He's like, oh, you can just have it. We're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And he'd replaced a lot of things in it, the fridge and all that stuff.
Yeah. So he went and picked it up and.
I remember I took over a truck.
Crazy.
We had a truck, so we thought it's the beginning of summer. We got rid of our rental, and we thought, let's put everything in storage. We're going to hit the road, and we did. And I remember
all these events.
Yep. So we were stoked. We're like, yes, we're taking the boys, and I got this Nissan Titan, and I should have put the pictures up there, Richard. I should have done that, but I didn't. And many of you guys probably know the story. I remember when. Oh, geez, we don't got a lot of time. We'll continue. So. We had put everything in storage. We started traveling. We go to Michigan.
Yeah.
So we did a couple of events there, right? Went amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah.
We had to drive to Minnesota in like a day. So it was like we had to get out of there, rush over because it was a Sunday that we had to be there. So I think we did that event.
Jesus people, yeah.
Right. So we did a Friday night event, or was it a Saturday day event? I can't remember. It was one of those. So we drive over to Minnesota in the Minneapolis area. We go there and we do a church, and there's a storm like that's just nailing the place. We did pretty good there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great church.
We got there at like 7 a.m. for church to start at 9 or something like that.
Yeah, it was crazy. We didn't sleep very well.
Yeah.
So then we had a little bit of time. I went to go see my younger brother.
My parents lived there. We stayed with them for a week.
Stayed with them, yeah. So then all of a sudden I see my younger brother, and he says, "Hey, I got a word from God for you." He said, I see the Lord bringing you through a great storm. He said, but you're going to come out tenfold. You won't lose a thing. You're going to come out tenfold. And I was like, how about I pray for you? You know, like, so we drive. We're going towards Kansas. We're supposed to go to Texas, I think, to do those events.
We're on our way to Texas to do some events.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm asking you because you have the details.
Yes.
So we get to Kansas. This whole Wizard of Oz thing is real. So we're driving through, and there's these warning signs saying, what is it? 80-mile-an-hour winds. You know, be cautious, be advised, be cautious, don't drive, or if you can, pull over type thing. So we didn't, you know, we kept driving, and
we pulled over because, there was a huge storm. You could see it coming, like, you know, Toto type storm. And, and we pull over and like kind of batten down the hatches, and we get back on the road, and we kind of veer, and it looks like we're going away from the storm. Well, then we turn again, and we're like, bam, right in the middle. And so Massey starts driving like 40 miles an hour with the hazards on. And
luckily there was a cop behind us. There was, yes. So I'm driving, and sure enough, our RV was a sail, and we flipped. I just remember the truck being on its side, and we lost everything. I mean, everything was wrecked in the truck. We had our clothes that we could grab. We had the boys with us.
Our oldest and youngest are screaming. I mean, I think Aaron was 3 at the time. Yeah. He was screaming. Isaiah was crying. And our middle son is like, that was awesome. Let's do it again.
So
he's a cardboard cutout of Massey.
He is. So, he very much is. Handsome, debonair, dashing.
Crazy.
Articulate. So we flip and lose everything. And I remember the cops and the firefighters are so generous. They brought our trailer to us, which actually, what's cool about that is I got to witness to one firefighter and a cop. Mm-hmm. I got to witness to the Lord, witness to them about the Lord. So it was really cool. So in the midst of all that, God was so gracious to us. We were at a hotel, and Carrie didn't have shoes. So I felt like a loser as a husband. I didn't have anything to give her. We had to take an Uber. I'd never done that before. We did that. But we lost everything. Mm-hmm. And I remember calling my mother, and she told me this. She said, you know, maybe you should go home and rethink your ministry. Maybe you should go home and really rethink why you're doing this. And I just remember, I don't know what came over me, but because when you're Hispanic, you don't talk back to your mom, no matter how old you are. You just don't do that because she'll whoop you. So even when you're 50. So I said to her, Mom, if you get into arguments with Dad, do you question your marriage, or do you fight for it? And she said, no, I fight for it. And I said, that's what we're going to do here. Just because I have a setback does not mean I'm stopping. Mm-hmm. Like, it only kind of encourages me to keep going. Yeah. So they end up coming up to get us because we're in Kansas.
As weird it is, I just want to interrupt, because as weird as that sounds, if you're led by the Spirit of God, you understand that that's not a deterrent to your call.
Nope.
It's a confirmation of your call. Like the attack of the enemy, and everyone talks about like what the devil's doing and he's behind every doorknob. That doesn't scare us. That's a confirmation to what we are called to do.
Totally. So. And I think, so they come up to get us. They're in Texas. So they drive up to get us. We drive back to their house for like a week and a half or something.
To be there anyways for a week.
Yeah, but we had to cancel a couple of events.
Yeah.
So I remember we're there, and I'm reading through James. Count it all joy when you fall through various trials. And God's really ministering to me through it. And through a crazy set of circumstances, I had a car there that I had dropped off
to pick up the truck, because
it's weird.
Story.
It's a long story.
There's
a car there for us, which is a hoopty. This thing does not run well, right? We have to go to Massachusetts from Texas, so we're like, hop in, baby. So we got into that thing. We're driving. It breaks down in Ohio.
In Hyannis, Massachusetts, for the July 2nd service. Massey was supposed to preach about the Constitution and our freedoms. July 2nd.
And so we're on our way. It breaks down in Ohio. We had to stay in a hotel. We got in. We're in Massachusetts at this point. It took a day and a half or something like that. Took a hot minute. So we're getting there, and it will not go past 50 miles an hour. This car is so bad, it will not drive past 50 miles an hour. So then I'm going downhill, and this thing's racing, right? I'm like, well, I'm mad. I'm just, you guys ever see the Incredibles, the big dad in that short car? I'm like this. I'm all mad and ornery. And Carrie looks at me and what did she say?
I said, well, it drives down night. I can't even.
She goes, it drives nice downhill.
Yes.
And, so needless to say, again, we got like 2 hours of sleep, I think, that night. We show up at the church. Our car is leaking oil like crazy. I feel like an idiot. We show up. There's 20 people in this church. Keep in mind, can you tell them what Nathan said to us before?
Okay, so we were in Texas the week before we got to Massachusetts, and our middle son, Nathan, who is like Massey, is super creative and super loves to draw and all the creative things. And so he drew something on a piece of paper, and it was the number 10,000. And he said, what is this number, Mom? Well, how much is this? And I said, that's 10,000. And he said, that's how much Daddy's going to get. And I was like, go tell Dad. I was like, okay, go tell Dad.
And I remember I looked at him, I'm like, I received it.
Yeah.
I receive it. And so we get there, and there's literally 25 people.
Little church. Assemblies of God church.
And I don't know what came over me. I'm just like, Lord, I can't do this anymore, man. I can't do this. Like, what is going on? Like, we need people to help this ministry, and we're praying. And I called my pastor. I'm like, dude, I don't know, am I supposed to do this anymore? I don't know what to do. And so we show up and we preach, and usually their services go till noon or something. Mm-hmm. We were there till 2:30, 3 o'clock, I think it was, ministering to people, ministering the whole time. So we were doing things that they were praying for. They were praying about the gifts of the Spirit and healings and prophecy and things like that. So we were speaking into people's lives and praying over people and stuff. It was really cool. And a lady had just sold her house and tithed to us off of her house sale to the ministry. Mm-hmm. So the pastor rounds us up and he goes, how much did you tell me y'all were asking for another truck? I said, we need about $10,000. He said, open that. Are you going to start crying? I'm going to start crying too.
It was an offering for 20 people for $10,000.
Yeah.
And can I just back up and say that Pastor Steve, so we went to his house that Sunday and spent the afternoon with him. And he said, I have been praying for, I don't even know how long, months, years, for a genuine move of the Spirit of God. He's like, I remember growing up in a Spirit-filled church, and you get the crazies who always talk about the Spirit. He told this one particular story, and it so moved me. And I've told this story, a number of different times. He said, we had an old preacher, an old, 70, 80-year-old man. It was some revival conference. And they're up at the altar, during praise and worship time. And this group of people is trying to cast out this demon from this person. And he said, the old guy, the 80-year-old guy, is sitting in the chair like this and just watching this happen. And this was a preacher, and he was going to talk about basically the Spirit of God. And he's sitting there watching it, and they're going to town praying for this person, and this person is going crazy. And finally he gets up and he's like, get out. And it changed the room. And he's like, I have never seen a genuine move of the Spirit of God except for that moment. And he'd been praying for someone to come in and minister to his congregation with genuinely let God move on his congregation. And he said basically that he felt like God brought us there, and that we were God used us as an answer to his prayers. And so, and vice versa, obviously God used them to answer our prayers. But it was just one of the top 10 powerful times we've ever been a part of and been able to, opportunity to be a part of.
So 5 years later, here we are, doing this. We've grown into a podcast. We've grown into schools, colleges. We're now doing curriculums. We're doing all these things. Why did we say that specific story? And you guys heard, I got angry. I got frustrated. I was literally telling God, calling my pastor, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Because he will not use those that are perfect. He won't, because those perfect people, when they do it their way, they get the glory. I'm telling you that God gets the glory every single time you submit to him. I don't care how mad you get. I don't care how frustrated you get. I don't care what goes on. I don't care if you think you're defeated. You are not defeated when God has called you to it. Now listen to me. This is one thing I'm going to leave you with, because it's never been about numbers. It never has. With this ministry, we've done events. No kid, no lie. I showed up to an event with 3 people. 3. And dude, I preached just as hard as when I preached to 1,000. None of that changes. Because it's not about the people. It's not about the amount, I should say. I remember one of those people ran for city council and won out of those 3 people, I think it was.
Right.
And you're thinking, it's about, and everybody we would tell, we had 3 people, but this person did this. And they're like, you went to an event with 3 people? What are you, stupid? That's ridiculous. You're wasting your time. You're like, that's not even worth your time. Are you kidding me? Those 3 people literally changed something in that city.
That is actually the number one thing that people give us advice on. Massey can't be doing these events for 10, 15, 20 people anymore. Well, yeah, I want him to speak to thousands too. But our heart has been, Lord, we will go wherever you open the door. When we first moved to Florida, somebody told us a story about a church here that's a prominent church down in South Florida here. And they started out with 70 people in for 5, 6, 7 years in the pastor's living room. And he told a story about how he got called to the hospital. It's back when pastors made hospital visits, and he had to borrow a truck because he had quit his job to start this church, felt God called him to start this church, right? So broke because they running 70 people for 7 years, and they're not prospering at all. He had to borrow a truck because his was broken down. The truck was the old bottom was rusted out because it was like an old truck. He drives over a puddle, splashes all up on his suit.
Yeah,
and
mud and everything.
Everything. And he said it broke him in that moment and said, Lord, I will do this because you've called me to do it. And if I run 70 people for the rest of my life, I will continue to do what you've called me to do. And it was from that moment on that God just birthed, they're one of the largest churches in the nation now, and doing amazing, powerful stuff for the kingdom. And that's the thing. It's like we all have these visions of I have to speak to millions. I have to speak to masses. Why are you letting Massey go out and speak to 30 people? I don't know, because that's how the Lord called it. Okay, that's just what the Lord called us to do. There's this. Sorry, I have one last story.
No, do it.
There's the same pastor actually told us a story about a gentleman who felt called to street preach. He quit his job, started a ministry, and went street preaching. There was literally on his deathbed, there was one record of a salvation out of his entire years of ministering on the streets and street preaching and praying for people on the streets. He had a record of one person got saved. That same person was the guy who ministered to D.L. Moody, and D.L. Moody got saved. And if you guys know anything about D.L. Moody, if you don't, look him up. He has influenced millions of people through his ministry. God has used him so powerfully. But it was because one person felt called to street preach, quit his job, ministered to one person. One person got saved out of one recorded person out of his entire ministry. And that person ministered to D.L. Moody, and God used that person to minister to him and get him saved. And so that's the thing. You never know who God's calling you to speak to. So that's my point.
And we've done events that have been amazing, huge ones.
Yeah.
We've been a part of some big events.
Yeah.
Speaking on the Capitol has probably been a highlight at the DC.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking on the Capitol steps is probably the highlight for me, for you.
Yeah.
But remember that same trip, we went down to North Carolina, and they said, hey, do you need something to put your Bible on? And they gave me a barrel. And it was in the backwoods that I preached. And it was 30, 40 people gathering around. I just, that was probably the best event I ever did.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were hungry for Christ, man.
Right.
And it was it was a camp. It was a 3-day camp, and everybody had their campers and RVs, and we were out in the field.
Right.
And I'm preaching from a barrel.
Right.
My Bible's sitting there.
The
that's it.
revolution wasn't this beautiful, well thought out planned. No. Get yourself, a Facebook page and a marketing plan, and we're going to win the war for the revolution. It was farmers, and yeah. I just think sometimes we get so boxed in how ministry should look, and God's it doesn't work like that always.
Exactly.
So
and so with all that to say, that's just a piece of how Self-Evident started. Again, now we're working on different things, curriculums that we're going to homeschool our kids, because we have them in a really cool Christian school that uses homeschool curriculum. But now that we're going on the road so much and being at church, because I'm an assistant pastor there too. I just want to spend more time with the boys, so we need to have them home as much as possible, and they're smart already. Mm-hmm. So I don't really, and before you tell me they're not, most people listening to us probably homeschool their kids, praise God. But I just want to raise my kids. And if all I'm doing is ministering to people, they got to go to bed at 7:30, what's the point? So we can't stop what we're doing. The kids know why I do it. My kids are with me to do it. One of our kids starts working for us here real soon. Mm-hmm. So there's just all this stuff going on that we just didn't know we were going to do. We never set out to do any of this stuff. Yeah. A lot of people are like, you should be on Fox News. You should be on this. Why should I? Why? What's the point? She always says you should be
I'll be on Fox News.
Right. But I don't care. None of that stuff was the vision. The vision is reaching souls. Yeah. Yeah. And so if he can use us, and guys, like Julie said, I'm a nobody.
That's it. Just stepping out and
just
doing
stepping
what God's
out and doing it and watch God move, man. Which brought us to this church, Revive Church, where we show up. And I have no clue what he saw, but like he's like, hey, I think you should pastor the young adults. I think you should pastor the band because I was in a band for 30 years. Stuff like that. And I started that. And I'm the assistant pastor there. Like Pastor Todd, like they don't know what they've done for my family. Like they just don't know how they've helped us and the covering we have for the ministry because of our church, stuff like that. There's so much, man, that like God has done, and he can do all of that through you too. You know what I mean? And so like, that's my word of encouragement. It's like, I know every one of you can do something, whether it's a homeschool, whether it's whatever, whether it's going out and reaching the masses, whether going out and just street preaching to your neighbors. We all have neighbors that have never heard the gospel, stuff like that. Something, getting involved in the city government or starting a true New York project, whatever, you know what I mean? Something. You can do something to impact someone else's life. Because the bottom line is this: Jack Taylor just died. Dude was like 86 or something like that. Right? Yeah. And the one thing I keep thinking about is that dude has a legacy. People were literally discipled by this guy. People all over the world, big ministers, were discipled by this dude. Like, influential guy. Came to our church, spoke to me. Like, I mean, I'm just like, dude, this is crazy what God's done, right? Legacy. What are we leaving our kids? Yeah. It was a Dietrich Bonhoeffer that said the ultimate test of a moral society is the kind of world that it leaves to its children. That's it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and guys, I know I see the cool homeschool post. Amen. Not that we were against it. We were just, Carrie's not a good teacher. She said it. I'm not a good teacher. So we're like, but you know what? God's faithful, right? So if I can do a ministry, why can't I homeschool the kids? So that's why we did it. But the schools we've been to, the schools that we had them in were a Becca curriculum and all that stuff. It was really cool. But yes, thank you so much for the prayers. Thank you so much for the amens. Guys, I just want to leave you with this. Everybody can do something. And what you're called to is what God has called you to do. And if it's impossible, that is exactly what God is calling you to do. When it's something you can't even think about doing, when you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I can, that's it. Because it's on your heart and you have a passion for it, but you're like, there's no way. I know there is no way. Let him move so that you can see those ways parted. You start praying to the Lord to make crooked places straight. You start praying to the God to make streams in the desert, like he said in Isaiah 43, so he could bless your way, so you could see him. Amen. Make a way in the wilderness. All those things, right? So this is for you. So we've got just a little bit of house cleaning to do at the end. You want to talk about the shirts and the product, bro? You ready with those slides?
Oh, okay. I didn't know we were doing
real quick.
We have a whole kind of an apparel line that we've started. We never intended to have an apparel line, but we have figured out, obviously through the leading of the Lord, that it is a great avenue to minister and get a message out there. So we have...
Talk about the Buc-ee's thing quick.
Okay, so just if you go to 1776truth.store, 1776truth.store, we have a whole bunch of shirts, a hat, and sweatshirts.
You put that up, buddy?
Yeah. Boom, there you go.
No, that's the Torchbearer.
But if you want to support us monthly, that's Torchbearer too.
The shirts and the t-shirts, we don't have those up? Never mind.
Okay, well, 1776truth.store. But so we went on our way to Ohio, we stopped at a restaurant, gas station called Buc-ee's, which is an amusement park basically for a gas station. And where I'm just walking around, wandering around, and I was wearing this sweatshirt. So it says socialism steals, kills, and destroys. Sound familiar? I had literally like 3 different people stop me and like, where did you get that shirt? Or I love that shirt. And so literally it's like we're literally a walking billboard. And so that's really why we started. It started out with our really our first shirt that really kind of was the Make America Constitutional Again, which was a hat. And so that's kind of how it started. So get yourself a...
Yeah, we've got tons of different designs. We got We the People sweatshirts, socialism.
We got some new ones coming out too.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. You guys are going to see the newest one. Oh, I'm so excited. Richard actually here is going to be working on the design. I'm really excited. It's actually from 2 Chronicles. You'll know it's going to be a totally awesome design. And we want to keep doing this because I get stopped a lot. I was just in Best Buy with one of these shirts, and a veteran, I think it was, came up to me and he was like, oh my gosh, man. Like, that is so, like, I wish people would know that message. And I'm like, but people don't say anything. I said, dude, you don't even have to say anything. You just wear it. You don't need to say anything. You just wear it and watch people react to it. Get into a debate with people. You want to open the door? Do something like this. And they'll be like, oh, I don't agree with you. Why not? Let's talk. That's the best way to do it. So we have the shirts. We have the t-shirts. We have the switch. Sarah just said, Sarah Ferguson, Faf? Is that how you say it? Faf? I hope you said Faf. She said, my 16-year-old has the hat and wears it everywhere.
Amen.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. I needed to hear this today. Thank you, Lord, she said. So we have that, but we also have the Torchbearer program. You guys want to be a part? You do that.
Yeah, so the Torchbearer program.
Now you can put it on.
The Torchbearer program is our monthly support base. And I kind of just say the same thing every time because there is really no way of getting around it, no way of saying it any better. And it's that our monthly support base is really how we continue to do what we do. It is our biggest need to build our monthly support
base. Put
base.
those slides
up. So people donate anywhere from like 20, 25, 50, 100, whatever kind of where you feel led to donate on a monthly basis. And it really helps us continue to do what we do. It helps us travel freely. It helps us print our materials. We're working on a Constitution course and just all the avenues we have going on. It just helps that stay sustained. So if you would prayerfully consider becoming a monthly sponsor, you can go to our website and sign up, which is theselfevidenttruth.com, theselfevidenttruth.com, or you can reach out to us through our Facebook. Many of you have our phone numbers. You can call us and we'll get you signed up. And there's no other way to say that we sincerely appreciate the support. And sometimes that saying thank you just never feels like enough.
Never.
But we truly do appreciate it. So
yep. So once again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Next week, we're going to have another guest. And this one's actually going to be about your schools. How can you get involved in your schools? Again, this is a series on Be the Majority. And we're going to show you how you can get involved. Today was Julie. We'll have her on again in the future to kind of tell us what the update is.
Yeah.
Next week's going to be an awesome guest as well. How you can get involved in the schools, what you can do to be a light in that avenue. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, go to theselfevidenttruth.com for more information. Thank you so much for subscribing, for sharing these videos. We love you guys so much. God bless you. We'll see you next week.
Bye.